Unicorn Pictures will bring you the new action-packed feature from the director of American Ninja and Avenging Force. This Sam Firstenberg movie starring American Ninja's Steve James and the Color Purple's Margaret Avery is a combination of quality acting and intense action, making Riverbend a picture which is sure to attract a lot of interest.
My name is Samuel Quentin, and I am a major. This is Butch Turner, a lieutenant, and Tony Marks, a sergeant. We three men are combat veterans of Vietnam. And when this period of your life is over, you men will be combat veterans of Riverbend because you have a problem in this town. And we're here to help you solve that problem.
I got a feeling that the niggas are planning some violence around
here. You had better tell me what's going on here. You had better tell me right now.
My name is Major Samuel Quentin, and I'm commander of the forces that now occupy Riverbend.
They're all safe. You can move in now.
All right, goddammit, get back. All of you, I swear I feel.
We want them to see and make public all the atrocities that have been allowed in this town for too long.
Do you have any idea what we're going to do to you for this?
Tonight is for real. So the next time we meet, the town will be ours.
Margaret Avery.
You gonna get out of here?
Steve James, Tony Franks.
Tell me, goddammit!
Two men locked in combat.
You think you bad? This has been a long time coming. Come on!
Riverbend, the battle for freedom, has just begun.
Riverbend came about in a very strange circumstances, very strange. Most of the movies that I was offered to direct, all of them, not most of them, came from legitimate production companies or producers, movie producers, etc. I was with a big agency, CAA. Marty Baum was my agent. And he relayed to me that somebody contacted him, interested in me to direct a certain movie, and he will send me the script, or he just made the connection. And then I found out the people he was talking about were private investors from Texas, not movie people. They never made a movie in their life. It was 4 people, 2 couples, 2 husbands and 2 wives, that together formed a group. I found out when I met with them, the one couple was white couple, one couple was black couple from Texas. The white couple had the money, the black couple had a script. Night of the Eagles. They had a script, Night of the Eagles. At the first moment, I don't know how somehow they found me. You know, I figured out all those action moves, etc. And they just gave me a script. Basically, they gave me a script. It was a very big script, The Night of the Eagle. More than 160 pages, big script. I didn't know much yet where we were going with it. I read the script. Boy, it was something that I never read and I never saw in a movie theater. In a context, not in a general context of action adventure, you saw something like this: a group of small group, minority taking out the majority, winning over. This is a common theme in drama, but here it was specific. In the 60s, in the South, a group of black militia, not militant because they were trained militia, are trying to justify the situation. Population of this one little town is being abused, and they take over and they switch the situation totally. The black population become the supreme population, and they force the white population to become their subservient. They put them in confinement. I never saw a movie like this. I didn't have a knowledge that exists, a story or a book or a movie like this even exists. Wow, I was very, very taken. Again, I said it was excessive script, 160 or 180 pages with a lot of details, but the basic premise, the basic idea was good. It was not brilliantly written. It was not James Booth, that every line was perfect and every situation was perfect. So I could tell that it was written by a non-experienced writer, but he had an idea. Later, I met the writer, Sam Vance. This was his name. He was the producer. And he was a very tall black guy, very tall, like a basketball player, very impressive. He told me that he was in the military in Vietnam. I cannot verify it, but he was. And the story is inspired by it, because the three heroes of the story, the soldiers coming back from the Vietnam War. And he was quite a character, a Texan, later on the set, he used to come on a horse, riding a horse with this cowboy hat. He was quite an impressive character. And he pitched charismatic character, and we met eventually. They came here to Los Angeles, the two couples, and he pitched me the whole idea. I told him, Sam, I'm sold, don't worry. I like this film. Eventually, I realized they approached me because I knew Steve James. So they wanted Steve James for the part. Maybe they tried earlier to get a big star and they were not successful before they approached me. But eventually they got their mind set on Steve James. So this was the connection, not because they were crazy about my movies or anything. It was the Steve James, American Ninja connection, and the white couple, the money people. They were very liberal Texan, liberal-minded Texans that made a lot of money in construction, and they decided to spare $2 million or $2.5 million and make this movie that they like as well. It was written by Sam Vance, and they liked it as well. They wanted to do it, and that's how it came about. So there was money. They had one condition: we must shoot it in Texas, which no problem to do. It's a good idea. And they wanted to use as many as Texan people in the production as possible. No problem. Also, Texas is a movie state. It's not a problem. It's in Dallas. And this was the condition. So that's how they presented it. There was no problem of money to look for money, because there was money. He was the money. The producer was the money. He had the money. Later on, it caused some problem. When somebody is the producer and is the investor and he's the money and he's the company, he can do whatever they can do whatever. So that's how it came about. I approached Steve James. I told Steve James, here is the compensation for the death scene in Avenging Force. If we make this movie, everything come out, you come out as a big hero, like no question about it. That will erase the memory of dying in Avenging Force. Steve was very happy about the script. He wanted to do it, and it was what we call green-lighted, but it's not really green-lighted because they wanted to do it anyway. So they had the money was there, the script was there, and we went on the road. We got started, totally independent. There was nobody involved. Troy Dale had the money, so there was no problem, and he was not stingy about his money. He wanted to spend the money. He put it in the bank. He was not looking for pre-distribution deal. He was an amateur actor, local theater, community theater. So he had a little part there. He plays in the movie, and he was good. He wanted to portray himself in the movie what he really was: a white, liberal Texan.
Here, tell Judge Riley's supposed to be here this morning.
Yeah, I know her.
I hear tell that nigger Marcus has been talking about some signed papers and all that. He's supposed to be seeing the judge this morning.
Don't mean nothing.
Well, ain't there something?
I told you, boy. There'd be some trouble if you come to town this morning. You best get on back home now, you hear?
What? So that you can keep on beating on us? Raping our women and killing when you feel like it? No, sir. I've had all I'm gonna take from you. I got proof of all the stuff that's been going on around here, and we're tired of it. You hear? And this morning I'm going to see that circuit judge and let him know not one Negro citizen is safe in this town as long as you're here.
Negro citizen? Yesterday, y'all was niggers. Now, who changed then? Must have been that Martin Luther King boy I've been hearing about.
This world is changing, old man. And days for people like you gonna be over real soon.
You're under arrest for disrespecting an officer. Now, hand me that paper and come on in here. You're resisting arrest? I'm telling you. Marcus, I'm warning you!
Didn't have to kill him.
You saw it. He was resisting arrest, wasn't he? Now, you good people come on over to jail later on this afternoon and sign the witness papers. Yeah?
Not this time. You can't just go on killing Negroes. Times are changing.
Yeah, the people around here are changing too. What the hell do you think this is all about? Oh, you will sign those papers like I told you.
How did Oscar-nominated actress Margaret Avery come aboard the project? Her scenes, really elevated everyone else's performance as Vanessa Tate, as well as Steve James. I think it was smart, to place such high-level talent around him to elevate it a little bit. I thought that was great. I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
When we started the production, and we were still in pre-production, initial stages, I told the guys that they were, as I said, they were naive. They believed, they had a strong belief in the project. They really believed in the project. They believed this project, this movie, when it will be done, it's going to go all the way. It's going to be big, famous, popular, go to the Oscars. They had inspirations that you wouldn't believe. The expectations were very high, but out of naivety, they only had $2 million. I explained to them, I said, listen, guys, it's good for many reasons, distribution point of view, for many reasons, to bring a known name. And I don't want to say a box office name because that's big, but a known entity, somebody who will give this project respectability. Let's start to look for, in one of the parts, okay, you got Steve James. He's not a huge star, Steve James. People know him for action, for this, but he's not a household name, big star in general terms, out of action. It will be good if you can get one more character. I was not involved in the casting. I think it was mostly the writer, Sam Vance. being a black producer, maybe had some more open ear when and they tried and they approached a couple of agencies, etc. Somehow she got the script. I don't know exactly how the script got to her hand, but probably through agencies and agent. And she read it and she liked it. She agreed to be in the movie. From an acting point of view, she's the strongest link in the movie. And she was fantastic. It was so good to work with her. Yeah, that's how she got aboard, and she liked it. She just liked this character of this woman who gets involved, who takes charge, and the whole idea. You know, as a director, as a conductor of an orchestra, as a director of a movie, of an assembly of cast, once in a while we encounter some great actors, some great acting. So we spoke about John P. Ryan. I told you I worked later on with Eric Roberts, but Margaret Avery was the type of actors who can totally transform, totally metamorphose to completely different character, really, really schizophrenically to another character, totally. And she's one of those, she has this ability, she has this talent, this level of acting. And I saw her already, I saw The Color Purple, you know, so I already knew who she was. So I didn't believe that this Margaret Avery from Color Purple is going to work with me.
Let's go. Good morning, miss. Now, we don't mean you any harm. So please don't be scared, okay? That's a nice fishing rod you got there, son. I bet you and your daddy go fishing a lot, huh?
I answer all the questions around here, not my son.
Where's your man?
He'll be home soon. Now, what you want? We don't have no money, and that old car over there don't work.
All we need is just a place to stay for a few days, that's all.
Well, you can't stay here. We're only a mile from town.
Quentin! Get inside the house, quick. Tony, Butch, check the windows. Come here, you. Do you have a gun?
No.
Don't lie to me. Where's the gun?
Don't you talk to me like that. I don't care who you people are.
Listen here, I don't have time to play. Where's the gun?
Car's getting close, Quentin. Stop. Bell? Well, I come to pay my respect.
You got your nerve. Coming here after what you done?
That was his own fault. What I done was legal.
You through, Sheriff?
Oh, one more thing. Got a telegram this morning that 3 escaped nigger prisoners from the Army might be headed this way. Now, if you see anything, you be sure to tell me, you hear?
Thank you. What's your name?
Elizabeth. Elizabeth Coleman.
Well, Mrs. Coleman, we'll need a change of clothes and a place to stay. I promise you, we won't make any trouble for you, your husband, or your son. After a day or so, we'll be gone.
But what about the law that's after you?
I'm sure we lost him. Don't worry.
Well, I have a woodshed out in the back. You can stay out there, but for only a day or two.
Thank you.
The biggest takeaway of the movie for me is there's a strong theme throughout the entire movie of justice versus revenge. And Steve James talks about that several times throughout the movie. We're here to seek justice, not revenge. We're not going to loot. We're not going to kill. Don't hurt anyone unless, it's in self-defense. And he sort of represents justice, I think. And then Tony, his partner, sort of represents revenge. And there's kind of the conflict. And I think the whole movie, at least what I got from it, was you can't have both. You can't have justice and revenge, because revenge just leads to more violence, more death, more hate. You have to one or the other.
Let me go back to a good story, pre-production, so at the beginning. Once we got Steve James and we got Margaret Avery, they told me, the Texans producer, they told me everybody else will be cast from Texas, in Texas. And I was doubtful. I said, are you guys sure that we don't have to bring small part from Los Angeles? They said, no, don't worry. We have everything here in Texas. And so eventually, I didn't have knowledge about the industry, television, theater, and movie industry in Texas, in Dallas. No, they brought actors from all over Texas, not only from Dallas. From Houston, from Austin, from all over. And the actors that came in, I was blown away, because sometimes this level of actors and acting, when you make a movie in Los Angeles, you have to deal with agents, and the agents are very picky, and the actors, even if they are not major big stars, if they are recognizable actors, sometimes it's so hard to get them to work in your movie, especially in the low budget. Because they all prefer to work in studio movies, and the agents just want them just to work in studio movies that will get a major distribution. So we make movies which we cast in Hollywood, and it's so hard to get the good actors to play small bits part. And here suddenly they recruited a local casting director, or maybe more than one, maybe it was a team, I don't remember. And they started to bring in the actors for reading I was blown away. The level of acting, I couldn't believe. The sheriff, his real name is Tony. Oh, what an actor! The two of them, the two guys with Steve, what actors, they came in. I couldn't believe the level of actors that I'm getting. So we were blessed, and even the guy who plays the head of the National Guard, everybody, every tiny small parts, the actors were fantastic. We didn't have to deal, I don't do it anyway, but we didn't have to deal with agents and with egos and with salaries and with money. Everybody wanted to participate in this movie. It was a local effort. The entire crew, almost, except myself and assistant director, all the crew, including the DP, Kenny, they were all Texans. The entire crew was from the local industry, mainly from Dallas, but from around, not only from Dallas. And so the crew was good, the cast was fantastic. But now we go back to the script. The script was not written by a professional writer, but by a writer with a lot of experience. So if he wrote the script, it's hard to tell, because later on I found out that this Sam Ben's character, though we were very friendly, he was very charismatic, but he had so many different personalities and so many, I don't want to say con man, but so I don't know if he really wrote the script, because the script was too extreme, because you're talking about the revenge and versus justice. When I read the original script, it was extreme. It was really extreme script. It was with a lot of vengeance, and it was full of vengeance. And I got to talk with him, with Vance, a lot, and we kind of agrees that you cannot take it to such a violence and vengeance, because the message of the script, if you want it to be sympathetic, cannot be that we do to them what they did to us. We are better than them. We are looking for justice. We are not just looking for revenge. And every time I asked him, because he was supposedly the writer, I asked him, can you change the scene? He always found excuses. He never did the work, which leads me to suspect that was not his original script. But I don't want to to be negative and because I'm not certain. But I couldn't get him to sit and write corrections. Sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't, sometimes he dismissed me. Every time I had the excuse why he didn't do it. The assistant director was David Womack, which is a writer in a way. And so David and me, we used to sit and correct scenes and show it to bands. And he always agreed. He always said, hey, good correction, very good, we like it, let's do it. So, and the script was huge, I told you. We dealt with a big script. So to me, it was important, this subject, that the people were seeking revenge and justice, they stick to the justice. Though there is a conflict within the group, it's not one hero, it's not high noon. So within the group there is conflict, but eventually the lead character, the protagonist, sticks to the idea that this is justice, that we are looking for revenge. And from what you're listening to you, and I hear that it came through. But of course, if there was some talented writer, I'm not a writer, maybe it would have been even more emphasizing. Watching the final movie, the product, you can see that it's not refined to a level of really, really great writing. But the idea is there. The idea is there within the limitation that we faced, that we had to shoot a huge script. The producer, which was not experienced, I told you, he comes from construction. Every time I told him, I tell Troy, I said, let's not shoot the whole script. We don't have the budget to shoot this whole 180 pages, which will not end up in the movie. But he came from a construction. In his mind was, I'm putting my money and I want as much wood as I can get for my money, as much product. So he insisted, he said, no, I want to shoot the entire script, I'm putting my money and this is my private money. And I want, please, you have to shoot the entire script. So at some point we had to rush because, still we were constrained to 6 or 7 weeks, I don't remember. And now we have to shoot 180 pages. Of course, it's not full of action. And instead of shooting 120 pages of script, which is 1.5 hours. Eventually, we had like a movie of 3 hours when we finished everything. And so with all of those constrained, budgetary, etc., the message is there.
Oh, the message is definitely there. I mean, and the message is reinforced throughout the entire movie. I mean, it's blatantly said many times through dialogue, but it's also just reinforced throughout the action. So, I mean, it is interesting what you're saying about the script, because I've written several scripts myself and tried to get scripts produced in the past. So, I mean, it's interesting that all those themes it is interesting. I wonder if he did write it or if he had somebody ghost write it for him.
Yes.
Because that is interesting.
I do not have the answer. I didn't find with him, with this particular producer, that he would sit in the evening every day and write and change accordingly, listen to the actors and change dialogue. Sometimes it's done. Mm-hmm. They change dialogue according to the specific actor, the way they I usually let actors stick to the script, but add some improvisation. I don't mind. It's okay. I actually like it. But I didn't get the sense from him that he's like a writer.
Yeah.
Jim Booth, if we needed something from Jim Booth in 10 minutes, he would go to another room. In 15 minutes, he will come up with a correction immediately.
Yeah. That's cool. That's great.
We didn't have this.
You said we were getting out tonight. And now you want to drag me into this civil rights bullshit. I followed your ass to hell and now. But this, you just count me out.
If you just shut up and listen. I got an idea that'll work for all of us. And save our asses at the same time.
How's that?
The Army doesn't want us to have our say about what happened in Nam, right?
Right.
Now, if we could bring national attention to Riverbend, that means reporters, television, federal investigators. We will be big news, and we will be able to bring our story to the press first. Now, I know the Army doesn't want that. And I don't think that any court-martial in this land would want to convict us after that.
How are we going to get national attention? What do we have to do?
We are going to recruit all the young, capable blacks that we can find. Train them into fighters, what we know, and then take over the town.
You probably expect me to be your goddamn drill sergeant, I guess. I'm supposed to take a bunch of country, backwoods niggers and turn them into soldiers in what? A couple of weeks? So you can put another medal to your chest? No way. I'm out of here, man.
Tony. Now, you can do anything that you want. But you're going to listen to me one more time. Now, we have been 10,000 miles away from home, helping other people preserve their freedom. People we don't even know, an enemy we don't even hate. And what were we doing? Killing, burning, and destroying. Now, have we done any good?
No.
Exactly. Now we're back here in the world. And we have an opportunity to help our own people. People that we should care about. So now you want to run out before the battle?
I've had enough of your lectures, and now, if I want to help my people, I got plenty of them back in Chicago. I don't need to deal with this southern shit. I'm through being a Boy Scout. Done my share. From now on, it's me I'm looking out for. I'll stick around for now, because your plan just might work out. But if it doesn't, then I'm gone.
When watching this movie, you can't help but think of, just the last 6 months, Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, all these incidents with police, killing these unarmed black men on tape. The opening scene where the sheriff shoots the man in the back in front of everyone and basically says, oh, he was resisting arrest. You all saw it, And it made me think about all the protests and social unrest that's happening. And again, that theme of justice versus revenge. I think a lot of these protests, these are people seeking justice. They do sometimes get out of hand with looting and stuff, but I think those are people that are more seeking revenge. You know what I mean? I don't think those are necessarily the protesters. And it just, watching the film, it just made me realize, not much has changed. I mean, Steve James even says in the film, it's 1966, it's not 1866, but it doesn't seem like a lot has changed, but a lot has stayed the same, I mean, I'm not really, I guess, I'm making a question here. It's more of a statement, but these are all things that, like, as I was watching it, I was thinking, wow, out of all of your work, and you started out, wanting to do social dramas when you were younger.
So this is your social drama. I mean, this is it. It was written maybe written in the 80s. I was approaching that. Maybe he wrote this, maybe it's an old script, but it deals with the 60s in the South. So this script and this movie relies a lot on stereotype of movies that we saw previously.
On your feet, boy. I mean now.
Got a name, boy?
Virgil Tips.
Virgil. Where you come from?
There ain't no trains this time of morning.
I could have had you shot. Skulls caved in. Could have been a hitchhiker.
Heat of the Night, the movie with Sidney Poitier, that he's a policeman and comes to the South to investigate a case, famous movie with Rod Steiger. So it's based, and there are many movies from the 50s and from the 60s that we grew up with that gives you the roadmap of what is segregation, what is hate in the South in the time. So we saw those movies. I did not live through there. I'm not from the South. Those guys are from Texas. They are not from the Deep South. I think she was the Valerie that came from there. But nonetheless, so the script relies a lot on the stereotypes and what they learned from the other movies and literature probably as well, going all the way back to Gone with the Wind. All those movies, Heat of the Night, Gone with the Wind, and many movies, Imitation of Life. There were many movies that deal with the subject. So I'm sure that Sam Vance, whoever wrote the script, took away from those movies. Really movie nostalgic, but it talks about the general subject. Yeah, of course, racism in general, racism in America. And until today, the subject is simmering. It's always here, since the liberation of the slaves. There was another movie came out at the same time, Mississippi Burning. Gene Hackman, kind of the subject, you know. The subject was always there, but the writer, Sam Vance, he brought up to the surface a subject that was dealt with in American literature and movie, musicals, whatever you want, non-stop, you know. And we saw a lot of it. I was exposed to a lot of this artwork, American artwork at the time. But strangely enough, the way things are, the way art is, suddenly it's a relevant subject right now. 2020, so many years later, it's more relevant than when it was made. It was made as a nostalgia, and it was a tale, it was a story. There is not a huge, this was not in his mind. He was aware, he wanted to bring this subject to the surface. He was a black writer, you know, it was a subject, and the actors involved, they wanted it. But as you say, today, for some historical reason, the way it turned out, it's even more relevant today than when we made the movie. I took this very seriously and with respect. I do not pretend to be expert on the subject of black life in the South. So, you know, I was asking people, of course, there was the people from Texas. We had one more. Somebody else helped us. He was, you know, Sam Vance brought him. He was an actor coach, black from the South, and he was advising me here and there. So how to approach things. So were the actors, you know, Tony Frank and the others, because there were some tough scenes to shoot, you know, in the church with him coming, and we had to deal with the real extras, and some scenes were very tough, you know, emotionally tough to shoot. So I needed all this support of rather black actors and advisors to talk with the extras, and because it was a little bit pretentious for me to come and explain the extras situation. So I used to send the dialogue coach to talk with them. I would tell him what to say, and he would talk with them to get over the awkwardness and the uneasiness of shooting it. But everybody was cooperating, and everybody understood we are making a movie about the 60s, not about the 80s, and that's how we should portray everything without fear, not politically correct, and not to have no fear. You know, that the scene in the church where they locked down the people, it was very uneasy to shoot. It wasn't. Needed a lot of explanation and a lot of talk. And you're talking also to Steve is from New York. He's not from the South. You know, he's a New York kid. The other two were from Texas, but Steve himself, he's a kid from New York. So he needed some help. Margaret is from California. She doesn't, you know, they don't come from the South. But they're actors, you know, but they needed some help as well to get into this atmosphere and feeling. Sometimes I questioned, you know, I would talk with Tony, I would talk with the actor Tony, I would talk with Sam Vance, and I said, aren't we exaggerating? He said, no, 60s in the South, we are not exaggerating. That's the way it was in the 60s. Definitely, a sheriff like this could have definitely in a small town exist in the 60s, no question about it.
Let the church say amen. Praise the Lord.
It had to be a hard shoot for, I mean, it was a hard shoot for everyone because of the tension, I'm sure, but particularly Tony Frank. I couldn't imagine, I mean, even acting, I mean, even playing a role, I couldn't imagine being in a room full of all these black people and saying the things he had to say to them and do the things he had to do. I mean, it must have been really hard for him.
So again, just like John P. Ryan, this Tony guy is a liberal, nice guy, you know, nice guy, you know. So, you know, even the scene in the church, I asked him to come out first, to talk with the people, with the crowd, to explain, to apologize, and to explain that he's an actor. And he did, he came out, and he gave a little speech, and he said, okay, let's do it. And they understood, you know. He was a nice guy, you know, like nothing like the character, but great actor. He told me, he said, by the time I finish, everybody will hate the character.
Well, I mean, that theme of justice versus revenge, you're conflicted as you're watching it. Like, as I'm watching it, I'm like, kill him, murder him. But they keep saying, like, if we kill him, we're just as bad as he is. You know, so you're conflicted as a viewer. You're like, you want him to die, but then you're like, oh, yeah. So, I mean, it works on that level, I think. It really does.
That's why I really like the script. And that's why I regret that the writing was not, it was this level, but was not that level, you know? Because you suddenly you deal with stuff, but, you know, this is not 12 Angry Men. This is not the same level of writing.
I thank the Lord that you all could come today. As Iron Hill, ain't seen this many folks at one time, and I don't know where. It's a miracle.
No, sir. This is no miracle. The time has come for us to do something for ourselves. Now, Fat Man and me been talking with y'all the last few days, and y'all know about the man in town that's gonna help us. Now, I want you to listen to what I have to say, because I'm only gonna say it once. Today is our last day of preparing. Exactly 20 days from today.
Sheriff, what can we do for you in the house of the Lord?
I ain't never seen so many niggas in church before. Is this some kind of special Sunday meeting, or is this a gathering?
Every Sunday is special to us, Sheriff. And in the eyes of the Lord, we are not niggers.
Amen. Reverend, you better tell that boy he's doing some powerful talking. Now, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm gonna find out. Oh, Gus, my daddy told me one day that as long as a nigger lived in Riverbend, he'd always be a nigger. And when he died, he'd be a good nigger. Now, Gus, you know I don't call a boy by his name unless I get the feeling he's about to become a real good nigger.
My name is Samuel Quentin, and I am a major. This is Butch Turner, a lieutenant, and Tony Marks, a sergeant. We three men are combat veterans of Vietnam. And when this period of your life is over, you men will be combat veterans of Riverbend, because you have a problem in this town. Right. And we're here to help you solve that problem.
Just want to talk about maybe real quick Steve James's fight scene he had in there. Were those put in there? Did Steve want to work in fight scenes? Because I know that he's talked about that in an interview I read before, where he really wanted to at least work in one fight scene into a movie. Because like the one with the sheriff, you know, he's doing a little bit of kung fu, like fighting with the sheriff and stuff, and I just was curious about that. Was that at Steve's request?
And then he fight with Tony. There is a fight between them. They disagree. There is gazebo. They fight in the gazebo. Yes. You know, Steve, I mentioned before, Steve James, what he wanted, his ambition was to be the next Black American hero. He wanted to be Shaft, let's say. And he was working his way toward this. He worked on his body, he always worked out, his body was great looking, his whole demeanor of not mean, but a good guy action character. Before we have Richard Roundtree was just like this before. Steve James was 10 times Richard Roundtree in his body and his projection. You know, I worked with Richard Roundtree as an assistant years earlier. Steve was much more. It just happened that at this moment of history of cinema, at this particular moment in the 80s, it didn't work out, but it didn't mean that it could have happened. Wesley Snipes was Black American hero in a sense. It did not work. His goal was not to be an actor in dramatic movies. This was not his goal. That's what he was looking for, to be an actor in dramatic cinema. He wanted to be an action hero. So, yeah, he wanted fights. He always wanted to take his shirt off, so you see his muscle, and he
was always losing his sleeves. There was never any sleeves.
Yeah.
Purposely.
Yeah.
Purposely. Yeah. And it's many times he takes off his shirt. All this purposely to project this persona that he wanted to create, the persona he was already on his way creating before his tragic death. And yes, so I mean, it was part of the script. They disagree. Him and Tony, they disagree about the way, or with the sheriff. But Steve said, let's put some, let's make it bigger. Let's have some action here. The original script, there is no kung fu action moves or anything. Not in the original script. It's considerable size of team stunt people. Mike Shank is the stunt coordinator.
All right, everybody out, come on, get out. Come on, Mark, get out of here.
Steve James in general, but you get a sense that in every role he plays, his personality's coming through. I mean, for some reason you get a sense that, like, even though I don't know him, you feel like he's a nice guy, that, like, you know what I mean? Even when he's threatening and like a tough guy and kicking ass, at his core, he's friendly, it seems like, like in American Ninja, he seems like a nice guy, you know what I mean? It's just, that it comes across in all his characters.
This was Steve. Steve as a person was genuinely what you call a genuinely nice guy. Friendly with everyone, shake hand, hugging, willing to sit and talk with everyone, and have a good time, and laughter, and he was just a nice, good guy, nice. I told you, the great love for cinema, great love for cinema. Everybody that met him liked him.
The one thing I like about how he likes to insert fight scenes into his movies that comes across, movies like he was in, like I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, where he was Kung Fu Joe, and then there was like films like The Last Dragon, where they take, this culture and they meld it with Kung Fu. And it's not just like for a funny thing, although it is, but what they do, and I think Steve James does too well, is he takes the art and not just like shows you what you can do, but he exalts it, and he shows that, it could help you fight injustices and help fight equality, and inequality, and fight for equality too as well, through martial arts, to be able to use it for good and put the wrong things right. And it's a tool in his arsenal. And I think that when he shoots those and this comes through, I think that's a beautiful thing.
In cinema, the way we know cinema, 120 years of cinema, we have two types of stars. We have the dramatic actor. We have Tom Hanks, of course, can do anything, comes from dramatic acting. But we had a lot through the history of cinema, stars with their persona. They were cinematic persona, not great actors, not great dramatic actors with delivering lines, but there were plenty of persona Take Schwarzenegger, for instance. He's on the screen, you know, you cannot deny his persona, his presence on the screen without being a great actor and delivering great lines and doing Shakespearean plays, movies. So cinema was always like this, right from the beginning. Steve belongs to this group. He had this persona on the screen, you know, he comes to the screen. When you see him on the screen or television screen, he's projecting. He projects this power. Nice guy, tough guy, muscles, you know, with a little of a smile. He flips somebody into the ocean, he smiles at you, okay, I done a good job, let's continue to fight. He had this persona that he wanted to bring to the screen, and he had it. He just, either you have it or you don't have it. But he just had this presence on the screen, which is unexplainable, which is magical.
You had better tell me what's going on here, and you had better tell me right now. Who in the hell are you, anyway?
My name is Major Samuel Quinton, and I'm commander of the forces that now occupy Riverbend. As of last night, every white resident of this town was taken hostage. Now, if you attempt anything foolish, they will die. And we're all ready to die along with them. Do you understand that?
Get to your demands. What do you want?
We want the governor and members of the press down here. We want them to see and make public all the atrocities that have been allowed in this town for too long. We want a full-scale federal investigation into all rapes, killings, brutality charges.
Do you have any idea what we're going to do to you for this?
Captain, if that governor does not arrive here in 24 hours, you had better bring all the long black Cadillacs you can find because you're going to need them. Now it's your move. Good day.
But in the story, interestingly in the story, the three soldiers are not from the South. They are from California. So we created a situation that they are confronting what they see is what we see as an audience. You know, they were three soldiers who came from California, but then suddenly they see stuff that they didn't grow up with. They heard in the stories and suddenly they see it for real. So that's interesting part of the story, of the structure of the movie, because they come from another world, completely from California. They don't believe, and they talk about it here and there. So this was one of the things that I wanted to emphasize all the time with their character, that those three guys, they never saw anything like this. They never saw, you know, this type of hatred and bigotry, and they see injustice. They know about it, you know, being black, being the same race, and they say, well, let's do something about it. We were in Vietnam, we saw, we fought, we were part of everybody, and let's do something about it, which is a classic drama, you know.
Was it overall less stressful making this film because it was privately funded as opposed to like a Canon film where you have, you know, Monaco and...
In a way, yes, because you don't deal with a company. Making a movie, you deal with a production company. They know what they are doing. They compare you to other movies. They have budget department. They know the budget. They see everyday reports. And this guy is a private investor. He wants to do the movie. There is no problem. You talk immediately. You can talk with him immediately. I need this house. It costs a little bit more money. Okay. Either yes or no, right away. But he was willing. He was not a guy that, he did not make the movie to make money. He was willing to sacrifice $2 million. I remember the budget. He was willing to lose $2 million. He was not looking into this he made enough money in the construction business. So he was not looking at it as a business venture, not at all. He wanted to make this movie, that's all. He really wanted to make this movie. So in this particular case, yes, you're right. It was much easier to deal with him than to deal with the company that makes the movie in order to make money. The post-production, as I say, suddenly disengaged. And the rest he did by himself because he was sure that there is some kind of conspiracy to fuck him. I don't know what.
Were you happy with you know, the result of Riverbend? I mean, I know that they shot so much and like you had to chop so much out, and the people didn't know what they were doing. Obviously, you guys had too much footage.
Post-production, We finished the movie. We shot the movie, the entire 160, 180 pages. We had a lot of material. And we decided, they agreed with me that we'll do the editing here in Los Angeles, not in Texas. They even have a laboratory there that developed the film, so all the film was over there, negative. But we brought it here. Marcus, I did a movie with Marcus Menton, Electric Boogaloo before, and he was the editor. You know, usually the process is the director and the editor are doing a rough cut, and then they invite the producer, and we talk with the producer. I said, we didn't have that much because he was in Texas and we were here, but we were editing. Unbeknown to us, at that time, the couples had a fight. The producers, they had a fight and they split. During the production, we were all in harmony. Everybody was helping us. Now, the director and the editor are being pulled between two forces which are not friendly anymore to each other. The two teams of producers are now fighting. I don't know until today what happened there. So the Vances moved to one side, Troy and Regina, they were fighting with each other, either over money, over subject. One producer, Troy, felt that since it's his money, he can dictate whatever will be in the movie. Vance wrote the script and he felt that he's the creator, everything should be according to him. So they saw some of the material, so we were pulled in between. But anyway, they let us, within this strange situation, they let us finish, Marcus and me. Finish the editing, we brought it down to the 2 hours, or nearly 2 hours that it is today. And Vance, they never came to Los Angeles together because they were fighting and not talking anymore to each other. So the guy with the money had more ownership or more control from a legal point of view. I don't know exactly how it goes. So eventually he came, we showed him the final movie, and at that point he mistrusted us. Maybe he thought that we are on the other side, we are sympathetic to the other side. I don't know. We were talking, we were not in a situation that we were not talking to each other. But I felt that suddenly he was cold. And he also had this pre-notion about Hollywood. In his mind, Hollywood was a bunch of thieves. The whole Hollywood establishment is a kind of mechanism which is trying to get his money out of him. You know, he was not from here. He was not part of the industry, nor the Texas industry, nor the Hollywood industry. So he harbored this feeling that everybody in this business is a thief who is trying to get his movie out of his hand or the money out of his hand. He didn't trust anybody in Hollywood. Eventually what happened, he took the movie and moved it to San Francisco, the whole thing. Because we were cut off before we did the sound. Usually after you finish editing the movie and the movie is locked, it moves to a sound editing, to sound department. They enhance the sound and to the music. He just took the movie, thank you very much. He paid me my money. He paid all the money to Marcus, the editors. You know, didn't try to cheat anybody, and took the movie. And he moved it to San Francisco. He probably knew somebody in San Francisco, which was a sound house. In San Francisco, you know, in the movie business in general, everybody who would see a movie rough cut, anybody has an opinion of this is not good, this is too much, this is too good, we can change it. They did some minor editing, not major, no, they didn't change the movie. So maybe they found an editor over there who used to work in the sound house. And they did some minor editing cuts here and there that, in our opinion, did not enhance the movie, but rather diminished a little bit. But those are not major. Those are a little bit in the character, in the lines, few lines here and there. Somebody advised him to take the very strong and harsh lines. I don't remember the little cuts that they made. And so this was okay. You can live with it. But there was one big problem. The music in this movie is bad. Ridiculous music, ridiculous. So when you see the movie, you hear the music, they go a different direction. But you know, distributing movie in America at the time of the theater, it's a very fine science, art and science. Movies with special interests, you have to build them. You started in the right neighborhoods. You know, free screening and discussion. This is the type of movie that you have discussion. And then suddenly, if it's successful, not necessarily, but if it's successful, word of mouth, people start to talk about it. Wow, we saw this movie. Now they expand it to different type of theater. They know, you know, the distributors in America, they know exactly in which theater they should open, in which neighborhood, which street, if it should be at 8 o'clock or at 11 o'clock. It's a scientific, distributing movies in North America. So maybe it would have had a chance if somebody put all the necessary love and care in the distribution of this movie. But he was not cooperating. There was Mississippi Burning. I feel that the company was not willing to do anything Paramount. And there are so many movies like this in the history of movie making, cinema, that disappeared. So many. In any case, he took control over the movie, and then he realized that he believed, you know, he was from construction. He came from construction. And he told me many times, he said, selling movie, you know, I sell buildings, selling movies like this, it's nothing for me. I told him, Troy, you're wrong. It's very, very complicated to sell movies. It's not selling building. It's not selling complexes of building. No, he said, I understand sell. And his wife, she was part of his team selling the real estate. So she said, no, we will sell the movie. They held the movie 4, 5, 6 months. They realized it's not easy to distribute movie in America, to sell it, nor video, nor theater, nothing. And eventually they found a company here, Prism, in Los Angeles. As I told you, they were mistrusting. They did not trust the Hollywood establishment. They did not want to deal with the big companies, or they didn't want to deal with Marty Baum that could have gotten them a good distribution deal. And they ended up with the Prism. It was a tiny company, I know. They were here in Santa Monica. And somehow they got the movie to Paramount. I don't know exactly how, because on the video, on the VHS, it says Paramount Home Video. Paramount didn't want the movie to come out because they had the Mississippi Burning. And this was competing the subject. It was the same subject, Mississippi Burning at the time. So it's a non-practice in Hollywood to buy to bury, to buy for burying. Some companies, sometimes, in order to kill the competition, they buy a movie and they bury the movie. That's it. And they consider it as part of the distribution of the big movie. They buy a small movie that might compete. It was exactly the time that Mississippi Burning came out. So maybe, I don't know all of this. Maybe they bought it to bury it so it will not come out. And it just came out on this VHS from Prism, that's all. There was never distribution, never any kind of, Paramount didn't attempt anything, nothing that I know about distributing the movie. And they don't know anything about it today. Well, some people called and tried. So this was the fate of the movie. Though it's an interesting movie, it could have had a chance of fighting. It's not a major movie, it's not a major, but it could have had a chance maybe in art houses, maybe in limited distribution, maybe in the right neighborhoods. You know, sometimes you have to open the movie in the right neighborhoods to get it going, in the right clubs. But basically Paramount didn't do anything. They just bought the movie and the movie was dead. And so this was the fate of the movie. That's how it ended up. We don't know even where the elements, when we say elements, we mean the negative. We don't know where it is. There is a general interest. Some people have VHS. There is a copy on the YouTube. People can see it in YouTube. Yeah, who knows? It might be in the laboratories. There is a laboratory next to Dallas, Las Calinas Laboratories. Now, shooting the movie in this Riverbend in Texas was kind of a lot of episodes and funny stuff that happened. As I told you, we had a very good crew. All Texans, except David and me. We were the only one not from Texas, from David Womack, the assistant director, and myself. And as you know, we discovered there is Texans are very hospitable people, very warm people, very, very, very hospitable. They like people from outside. But there is etiquette. You have to understand to Texas. So we go scouting, and this movie is a rural movie. So you go to small towns. It's not a city movie. So we were around in the area of Waxahachie. Waxahachie is the big city, but we were really scouting the little towns and small and the fields, and we were looking for this house. It's a strange house. So lunchtime, usually we stopped at roadhouses, at small cafes in the rural area of Texas. And usually lunchtime, all the farmers are coming to eat. You know, the cotton people, they come with the tractors, they park outside. We have film crew. We look strange immediately. And, you know, it's always steak. Wherever you go, you eat steak. So one day we're in this tiny, tiny diner, coffee shop diner, kind of Texan, real Texan. And I came from South Africa. I just finished, not long prior to this, American Ninja #2. And the beef in South Africa is fantastic because they all graze, just like in Texas. And it's a different cow, I guess. It's excellent beef in South Africa, the steaks. And so anyway, we sit in this coffee shop and we eat the steaks. It's always steak and pie, steak and pie. Every dinner, every lunch is steak. Then I talked with Kenny or with the crew, and said, but listen, this is a good steak, but in South Africa, I ate a much better steak. You know, the coffee shop became silent as if like, what? Like this.
Oh, I bet.
So people heard what I said, that the steak that I ate in South Africa was much better than this one. So quiet like this, and Kenny Lemkin says this sentence I cannot forget. He said, "It's better if we pay now and leave."